big rig's engine growled as Logan Braxton downshifted, guiding his 18-wheeler Peterbilt down a steep mountain pass in Colorado. His hands, rough from years on the road, stayed steady on the wheel, though his knuckles tightened just a little. 70,000 pounds of steel and cargo pushed hard behind him, testing his brakes with every curve. "Come on, girl," he muttered to the rig he'd named Constance after his late grandmother. "Easy does it." The CB radio crackled. "Eastbound traffic at mile marker 217, heads up. Accident cleared but still slick. Over." Logan reached for the handset. "Appreciate it, Nighthawk. Big skies coming down slow and steady. Over." That's when he felt it. The brake pedal suddenly went soft beneath his boot, sinking toward the floor with alarming ease. The pressure gauge dipped dramatically. "No, no, no," he whispered, pumping the pedal frantically as his training kicked in. The massive truck picked up speed, the momentum growing with each passing second. The runaway truck ramp was still half a mile ahead. Logan reached for the Jake brake, activated the emergency systems, and fought to keep the trailer from jackknifing as he barreled down the mountain at nearly 70 miles per hour. A hairpin turn approached fast, guardrail revealing a 1,000-foot drop just beyond. His military training took over. Logan stopped thinking and started doing. He downshifted aggressively, the engine screaming in protest. He turned the wheel hard toward the runaway ramp, a steep gravel hill meant to stop trucks when the brakes give out. The Peterbilt hit the ramp going 63. The sudden drag slammed him into his seatbelt, knocking the air from his lungs. The truck tore through the deep gravel, spraying rocks in all directions, slowing bit by bit until it finally stopped with a shudder, the front end buried 3 feet deep in stone. Logan sat motionless, heart hammering against his ribs, the taste of blood sharp in his mouth where he'd bitten his cheek. After 20 years of driving, he knew better than most. This wasn't bad luck. This was an attempt on my life. 3 weeks later, Logan pulled his repaired truck into the driveway of their modest 2-story home in Eagle Pass, Indiana. With its fresh blue shutters and neat flower beds, the house stood for everything he'd worked toward. Something solid, something lasting. A real home with Jenna. He'd paid cash for it, refusing to take on a mortgage. The $310,000 price had drained most of his savings, but seeing the look on Jenna's face when he gave her the keys made it feel worth it. Now, climbing down from the cab with his duffel slung over his shoulder, Logan paused. The curtains were still closed, even though it was a warm, sunny afternoon. Jenna's red Mazda was in the driveway, but the house felt strangely empty. "Jenna," he called, pushing open the front door. "I'm home, honey." The house smelled faintly of perfume, not Jenna's usual scent, something heavier, musky. Logan dropped his bag in the entryway and moved through the living room, noting the wine glasses in the sink, one with a smudge of deep red lipstick. Jenna preferred pink. "Logan!" Her voice came from upstairs, followed by hurried footsteps and the sound of drawers closing. "You're early." "I wasn't expecting you until tomorrow." She appeared at the top of the stairs, blonde hair pulled back in a messy bun, wearing yoga pants and an oversized t-shirt. "Got lucky with quick unloading in St. Louis," he said, studying her face. "Everything okay?" "Of course." She descended the stairs, arms outstretched for an embrace that felt mechanical. "Just working on a new photo project. The house is a mess. I would have cleaned if I'd known." Logan hugged her, noticing how she kept her body slightly distanced from his. "Missed you," he said quietly. "Missed you too," she replied, breaking away quickly. "Are you hungry?" "I can make something. Think I'll shower and unpack." He gestured toward the kitchen. "Company while I was gone." Jenna's smile flickered for just an instant. "Oh, Melissa from my photography group came by yesterday. We were discussing techniques for night shots." Logan nodded, knowing Melissa wore floral perfume, not whatever scent still lingered in the house. He'd met all of Jenna's supposed photography friends. He'd paid for the expensive camera equipment gathering dust in the spare room closet. In the bathroom, Logan stripped and stood under the scalding spray, letting road grime and tension wash away. His mind replayed the truck incident, the mechanic's grim face, as he pointed out the neatly severed brake lines, the quiet warning, "Someone wanted you the worst, brother." He'd told no one but his cousin Rick about the sabotage, not even Jenna. Now he wondered if that had been wise. After his shower, Logan methodically checked the bedroom. He found nothing unusual until he reached into the bedside table for the book he'd been reading before his trip. Behind it was a receipt from an ATM withdrawal, $2,000 cash, taken out 3 days ago from their joint account. Logan returned the receipt exactly as he'd found it and continued his inspection. In the hamper, beneath Jenna's workout clothes, he discovered a small shopping bag containing black lingerie with the tag still attached. The pricey La Perla set cost nearly $400. More than Jenna would typically spend, especially since she claimed to be saving for better camera lenses. His phone buzzed with a text from Rick. Analyze the brake line. Clean cut with hydraulic cutter. Professional job. Watch your back, cousin. Logan deleted the message immediately and headed downstairs, where Jenna was performatively arranging takeout menus on the counter. Chinese or pizza? She asked brightly. Either's fine, he replied, keeping his tone neutral. Tell me about these photography projects you've been working on. Jenna launched into an elaborate explanation about light composition and shutter speeds, terms she'd clearly memorized but didn't truly understand. Logan nodded, asking occasional questions while noting how she avoided specifics about locations or subjects. Sounds interesting, he said when she finally wound down. Mind if I look through your recent shots? Maybe help you select some for printing? Her eyes widened slightly. They're not ready yet, she said quickly. Still need editing. Besides, I accidentally reformatted my memory card last week. Lost everything. I was devastated. Logan nodded sympathetically. That's rough. You should use that backup system I bought you. I know, lesson learned. She fidgeted with her wedding ring. I'm starting fresh next week. I can help. Taking some time off after that brake failure in Colorado? Jenna's hand froze on the takeout menu. Brake failure? You didn't mention that. Didn't want to worry you, Logan said, watching her face carefully. Could have died if not for the runaway ramp. Mechanic says someone tampered with the lines. That's horrible, Jenna whispered, her face suddenly pale. Who would do that? Police report's been filed, Logan said, maintaining steady eye contact. Insurance investigator coming Monday. This was a lie, but Jenna wouldn't know that. She swallowed hard, turning back to the menus with shaking hands. Let's do Chinese, she said. I'm in the mood for something spicy. Logan smiled, the expression not reaching his eyes. Sounds good. I like things hot, too. The next morning, Logan woke before dawn, a habit from his military days that 20 years of civilian life hadn't broken. Jenna slept beside him, curled away. They hadn't made love. She claimed a headache, an excuse that was becoming increasingly common. He slipped quietly from bed and dressed in the dark, grabbing his keys before heading out to his truck. The pre-dawn air was cool, misty with spring dampness as he started the Peterbilt's engine, letting it idle while he worked. From a locked compartment beneath his seat, Logan retrieved a small metal case containing 4 GPS trackers, each the size of a pack of gum. His years in military intelligence before becoming a trucker had taught him skills most civilians never acquired, including how to conduct surveillance. It took less than 10 minutes to place a tracker beneath Jenna's Mazda, concealed inside the rear bumper where it would never be noticed during casual cleaning. The second tracker he placed in her purse, tucked into an inner pocket she rarely used. Next, he installed motion-activated cameras. One in the living room bookshelf disguised as an outlet, another in the bedroom alarm clock. Finally, he added a small voice recorder beneath the kitchen table where most of their conversations took place. By the time Jenna shuffled downstairs at 8, Logan was casually reading the newspaper at the kitchen table, a fresh pot of coffee brewed. Morning sunshine, he said, pushing a mug toward her. Sleep well? She mumbled, reaching for the coffee. She scrolled through her phone with unusual intensity. After a moment, she said, I have a photography workshop today in Indianapolis. Might be home late. That's fine, Logan replied evenly. I'll be around. Thought I might take Thor for a long walk, then do some maintenance on the house. Thor, their German shepherd mix, perked up at the mention of his name, tail thumping against the floor. The dog had been Jenna's idea, but it was Logan who'd trained him, fed him, and taken for daily runs. Good, Jenna said, not looking up from her phone. Thor needs the exercise. Logan watched as she rushed through her morning routine, applied makeup more carefully than usual for a photography workshop, and selected an outfit that seemed designed to flatter rather than function. Have fun at your workshop, he said as she headed for the door. Learn something new. Always do, she replied with a tight smile, not meeting his eyes. As soon as her car pulled away, Logan opened his laptop and activated the GPS tracking software. He watched the blinking dot that represented Jenna's Mazda travel not toward Indianapolis, but in the opposite direction, heading south toward Louisville, Kentucky. Interesting workshop location, he murmured to Thor. Let's see where she's really going, buddy. The dog whined softly as if understanding the betrayal unfolding on the screen. Logan reached down to scratch behind Thor's ears. Don't worry, we're gonna figure this out. 4 hours later, Logan stood in the parking lot of the Riverside Luxury Hotel in Louisville, baseball cap pulled low over his eyes as he watched Jenna emerge from the hotel entrance. Beside her walked a tall, distinguished-looking man in an expensive suit, salt and pepper hair, confident stride, hand resting possessively on the small of Jenna's back. Through his binoculars, Logan observed them laughing together, the man leaning down to whisper something in Jenna's ear that made her throw her head back in genuine delight. A laugh Logan hadn't seen in months. The man opened the passenger door of a sleek black Audi, helping Jenna inside before circling to the driver's side. Logan snapped several photos with his telephoto lens, capturing clear images of both their faces. Back in his rented sedan, Logan ran the Audi's license plate through a database he still had access to from his military days. The owner was listed as Miles Revere Enterprises, LLC. A quick internet search pulled up Dr. Miles Revere, self-help guru, motivational speaker, founder of Elevate Your Destiny seminars. Logan scrolled through the man's website, noting the exorbitant fees for his exclusive mastermind retreats and entrepreneur breakthrough programs. Testimonials claimed Revere had helped people transform their lives, unlock hidden potential, create seven-figure businesses. Further digging revealed multiple complaints filed with the Better Business Bureau, accusations of fraud that had been settled quietly out of court, and rumors of inappropriate relationships with female clients. So, that's who you are, Logan muttered, studying the polished photo of Revere, standing before an adoring crowd, arms spread wide like some modern messiah. He checked the GPS tracker again. Jenna and Revere were now at an upscale restaurant downtown. Logan considered confronting them immediately, then dismissed the idea. He needed more than just evidence of lunch with another man. He needed to understand the full scope of the betrayal. As he drove back toward Eagle Pass, Logan's mind raced through possibilities. Was this simply an affair, or something more sinister? The timing of the brake failure and Jenna's relationship with Revere seemed too coincidental. By the time Jenna returned home that evening, Logan had made his decision. He would become the hunter, not the hunted. How was the workshop? He asked mildly as she set her purse down. Exhausting, but inspiring, she replied, the lie flowing smoothly. Can't wait to see what you create, Logan said, smiling. That night, as Jenna slept beside him, Logan lay awake, staring at the ceiling, plotting his next move. The trust was gone, shattered like his truck's brake lines, but rather than confront her now, he would follow this treacherous road to its end, wherever that might lead. Thor slept on the floor beside Logan's side of the bed. An idea formed in Logan's mind as he looked at the dog's collar. You're gonna help me, buddy, he whispered. She never pays attention to you anyway. The next morning, after Jenna left for what she called a coffee meeting with photography clients, Logan drove to Rick's auto shop. Located in a converted warehouse, Rick's Precision Auto Service specialized in high-end vehicles and custom work. Rick Braxton, 3 years older than Logan and built like the former linebacker he was, wiped grease from his hands as Logan pulled in. The cousins shared the same piercing blue eyes and square jaw, family traits passed down through generations of stubborn Braxtons. Rick led him into a small office at the back of the shop, closing the door behind them. The walls were covered with car diagrams and family photos, including several of Logan and Rick during their military service. So it's definitely her? Rick asked, voice tight with controlled anger. Don't know yet, Logan said, sitting heavily in a metal folding chair. She's involved with some smooth-talking con man named Miles Revere, runs self-help seminars, preys on vulnerable women. Need to figure out if it's just an affair or if they planned the brake sabotage together. Rick cursed under his breath. Brake line was cut with a specialized tool. Clean, professional. Not something your average housewife would know how to do. Unless she had help, Logan said grimly. I need those dash cams installed today. Front, rear, and one facing the cab interior. Want to see who comes near my truck when I'm not around? Already ordered the system. Top of the line. Records to cloud storage. Can't be tampered with. Rick hesitated. What's your end game here, Logan? If they really tried to make you disappear. Then I'll make sure they face justice, Logan finished. Legal justice, if possible. Rick nodded, understanding the cold resolve in his cousin's voice. I've got another idea, he said, opening a drawer and removing a small metal device. This connects to your truck's diagnostic system. Records any attempt to tamper with brakes, fuel lines, anything. Sends alert to your phone immediately. Perfect, Logan said. And I need one more thing. Got any cameras small enough to fit on a dog collar? That evening, Logan sat at his kitchen table, carefully attaching the tiny camera to Thor's collar. The device, no larger than a button, would transmit footage directly to Logan's secured cloud account. "You're gonna be my eyes when I'm not here, boy," Logan murmured, scratching Thor's ear. The dog licked his hand, tail wagging trustingly. The front door opened, and Logan quickly slipped the collar onto Thor, activating the camera with a subtle press. "Hey there," Jenna called, dropping her shopping bags in the hallway. "I brought dinner from that Italian place you like." "Busy day?" Logan said, rising to help with the bags. "Just running errands," she replied vaguely. "Oh, and I got great news. Remember I told you about those photography clients? They want to book me for a major project next month, corporate headshots and event coverage." Logan nodded appreciatively. "That's fantastic. Good money?" "Very good," she said with calculated enthusiasm. "They're paying half up front, $5,000. Should hit our account tomorrow." "That's impressive," Logan said, watching as Thor trotted over to Jenna, camera recording her every move. "Client must really believe in your work." Later that night, reviewing the footage from Thor's collar camera, Logan watched Jenna make a phone call while he was in the shower. The dog had followed her into the guest bedroom, curling up at her feet. "It's me," she said quietly into the phone. "He totally bought it. Yeah, the photography client's story. I know, but we need a reason for the money to hit the account. He suspects nothing. The seminar next weekend? He's being clingy after the truck thing. I'll figure something out. Miss you too." Logan replayed the footage 3 times. The woman on the screen was a stranger wearing his wife's face. The next morning, Logan announced over breakfast that he needed to take a short-haul route to Detroit. Just 3 days. "Good paying load," he explained. "Should be back Friday night." Jenna's relief was palpable. "That's fine," she said, already reaching for her phone. "I've got plenty to keep me busy with this new client." As soon as Logan pulled away in his truck, Jenna was on the phone. Thor's collar camera captured her pacing excitedly. "He's gone until Friday. I told you I'd handle it. The seminar registration is already done. I use his credit card, but he never checks the statements. $3,000 for the Entrepreneur Elevation package. I know it sounds ridiculous, but your program changed my life, Miles." "I love you too." Instead of heading to Detroit, Logan parked his truck at a secure lot outside town and returned home in an unmarked rental car, setting up surveillance in a vacant house across the street, property that had belonged to his late parents. Within an hour of his departure, a black Audi pulled into the driveway. Dr. Miles Revere emerged, dressed casually in designer jeans and a tailored blazer. Through his high-powered lens, Logan photographed them embracing in the driveway, entering the house, his house, and later, through the bedroom window where Jenna had negligently left the curtains partially open. Thor's collar camera captured their conversations indoors. Revere complimenting the house, asking about insurance policies, Jenna laughing about how Logan works himself to end to give me everything. "The life insurance policy, you're still the sole beneficiary?" Revere asked, sipping wine in Logan's favorite chair. $1 million, Jenna confirmed. "Double indemnity for accidental passing, plus the truck insurance, this house, all paid off, and his investments. We're talking almost $3 million total." "And he still has no idea about the Colorado incident," Revere pressed. "He knows the brakes were tampered with," Jenna said. "But he thinks it's some random road rage thing, or jealous competitor." "Logan's clueless. Always has been." "We can't rush this," Revere cautioned. "The Colorado attempt was too soon. We need to establish my alibi more firmly before the next attempt." "The seminar registration helps. Shows you're a committed client with no personal relationship to me." "I've got it all planned," Jenna assured him. "Those pills you gave me? I've been putting them in his coffee every morning before a long haul. Eventually he'll fall asleep at the wheel. Trucking accidents happen all the time. No one will question it." Logan's blood ran cold as he listened to them casually discuss attempt on his life. The coffee that morning, he dumped it in the sink after noticing a slightly bitter aftertaste. He continued his surveillance for 3 days, documenting everything. Revere stayed overnight twice, leaving only when expecting deliveries or visitors. They used Logan's home gym, drank his whiskey, slept in his bed. On Thor's collar camera, Logan watched them discussing the future after his unfortunate accident, travel plans, luxury purchases. The grieving widow finds comfort with her inspirational mentor, Revere joked, kissing Jenna's neck. A love story born from tragedy. You're terrible, Jenna giggled. Thursday evening, as promised, Logan called to say he was running late, would be home Saturday instead of Friday. Jenna's disappointment seemed genuine until he reviewed Thor's collar footage later that night. He's delayed until Saturday, she told Revere excitedly over the phone. Come back tonight. We have more time. Then Logan made a crucial call of his own, to Natalie Burns, a former prosecutor turned private investigator. Years earlier, Logan had helped Natalie escape a manipulative husband, offering her safe transportation across 3 states and money to start over when no one else would help. Now, he needed her expertise. I need legal advice, he told her bluntly, and someone who knows how to build an airtight case. Natalie Burns arrived at Logan's surveillance location Friday morning. At 34, she carried herself with the confident precision of someone accustomed to high-stakes situations. Her dark hair was pulled back in a severe bun, minimal makeup emphasizing her no-nonsense approach. They sat at a folding table covered with surveillance photos, transcripts, and legal documents. Logan played selected recordings from Thor's collar camera and the hidden house devices, watching Natalie's expression harden. This is a textbook conspiracy to commit an intentional end, she said finally. The truck tampering in Colorado gives us attempted hit. The sedating attempts are additional charges. I want them destroyed, Logan said quietly. Not just jail, I want them ruined. Financially, reputation, everything. Natalie nodded. I understand, and I can help build that case, but Logan... She leaned forward, eyes intense. This has to be done by the book. One wrong move, one illegal recording in a state with 2-party consent laws, and they could walk. That's why I called you, Logan said. I need this airtight, legal, undeniable. First step, we file for emergency divorce proceedings citing endangerment, Natalie said, opening her laptop. Second, we petition to freeze all joint assets pending investigation. Third, we contact insurance companies about the fraud attempt. And Revere? His seminars cross state lines. That's wire fraud, interstate conspiracy. We can bring in federal charges. Natalie typed rapidly. But we need more. Something undeniable. Logan stared at the surveillance photos, mind racing. They want me to die in a truck accident, he said slowly. So let's give them one. The plan came together over the next 24 hours. Using Rick's connections, they located a wrecked Peterbilt that matched Logan's truck. Same color, similar model. With carefully applied damage and strategic placement on a lonely stretch of highway leading into Eagle Pass, it would create the illusion of a fatal accident. Local law enforcement, briefed confidentially by Natalie, agreed to participate in what they officially termed a fraud investigation sting operation. The sheriff, who had known Logan since childhood, needed little convincing after viewing the evidence. Saturday night, as freezing rain coated the highways with treacherous ice, the stage was set. Logan called Jenna one last time. Hey, honey, he said, injecting exhaustion into his voice. Running behind, roads are terrible. Might not make it back until morning. Don't push yourself, Jenna replied, concern perfectly mimicked. I miss you, Logan said, wanting to hear how convincingly she'd lie. Miss you too, she responded smoothly. Drive carefully. Logan ended the call and nodded to Sheriff Harlan. You sure about this? The older man asked. Once we pull this trigger, there's no going back. They've already tried to do me twice, Logan said grimly. Let's end this before they succeed. At precisely 11:17 p.m., the Eagle Pass Emergency Dispatch received reports of a tractor-trailer accident on Highway 62, just outside town limits. Sheriff Harlan personally responded, confirming a truck matching Logan Braxton's vehicle had skidded off the road and down an embankment, bursting into flames upon impact. Due to the intensity of the fire and dangerous conditions, recovery operations would wait until morning. By midnight, the news had spread through Eagle Pass's emergency response network. By 1 a.m., as planned, a somber deputy arrived at Logan's home to inform Jenna Braxton that her husband had been eliminated in a tragic accident. Logan watched through binoculars as Jenna received the news in her bathrobe, face crumpling in theatrical grief. The deputy offered condolences and basic information, explaining that formal identification would require time due to the condition of the body. The moment the patrol car pulled away, Jenna closed the door and leaned against it. She pulled out her phone with shaking hands, not from grief, but excitement. It happened, she whispered urgently into the phone. Truck accident, just like we planned. 3 days after Logan's end, Jenna Braxton, dressed in elegant black, sat poised and tearful before television cameras. Logan was the love of my life, she told the sympathetic reporter. All he ever wanted was to provide for our future. Now I have to find the strength to go on without him. Miles Revere sat supportively at her side, introduced as Dr. Revere, my grief counselor and spiritual advisor. His hand rested consolingly on her shoulder, professional concern masking the triumph in his eyes. Jenna is showing remarkable courage, he told the camera. At my Overcoming Trauma seminars, I teach that grief is a journey best not traveled alone. I've offered my professional services to help her navigate this difficult time. Logan watched the performance from Natalie's office, disguised with subtle but effective changes to his appearance. Hair dyed and styled differently, false glasses, beard, grown out and darkened. The few people who knew he was alive had been sworn to secrecy. Touching, Natalie said dryly, taking notes as the interview continued. How long before they file the insurance claims? Already done, Logan replied. 3 separate policies totaling just over $2 million, plus the house investments, everything we built together. Perfect, Natalie smiled coldly, because I've already filed our emergency petitions. Insurance fraud investigators have been briefed. Now we let them dig their own graves a little deeper. The next day, Jenna and Miles attended the memorial service for Logan, a brief, sparsely attended affair that Jenna had insisted be small and private. Logan watched from a distance as his wife accepted condolences from the handful of locals who'd shown up to pay respects. Most of his trucker friends were still on the road, unaware of his supposed passing. Thor sat beside Logan in the car, specially trained over the past week to remain silent on command. The dog's collar camera continued recording as Logan observed the farce of his own funeral. Not much of a send-off, is it, boy? Logan murmured, scratching Thor's ears. Guess she couldn't wait to start spending my money. After the service, Logan followed Jenna and Miles to an upscale restaurant 30 miles outside Eagle Pass, far enough that they wouldn't be recognized. With the camera and directional microphone Natalie had provided, he captured their celebration lunch. To new beginnings, Miles said, raising his glass. And to Logan, who made it all possible. Jenna giggled, the sound jarring after her performative grief at the memorial. 1 week of appropriate mourning. Then I'm thinking Barbados. I need time to heal somewhere with white sand and clear water. The insurance money should clear within 30 days, Miles said. Your performance has been flawless, darling. I did take that acting class in community college, Jenna preened. Always knew it would come in handy someday. Logan recorded every word, every touch. When they finally left, he returned to Natalie's office to add the new evidence to their growing case file. We've got them on conspiracy, wire fraud, and insurance fraud, Natalie said, reviewing the footage. But I want more. These cases sometimes fall apart if the prosecution can't prove intent beyond reasonable doubt. What do we need? Logan asked. Ideally, explicit admission that the brake tampering was deliberate, with intention to end you for financial gain. Natalie tapped her fingers thoughtfully. We need them to incriminate themselves even more clearly. Logan considered this. I think I know how to make that happen. A week after Logan's end, Jenna received notification that the primary life insurance policy had been approved for payout. The letter, crafted by Natalie and delivered by a cooperative insurance investigator, stated that funds would be transferred within 48 hours. That evening, Thor's collar camera captured Jenna and Miles celebrating in Logan's living room. $2 million! Jenna exclaimed, dancing around the coffee table. We're rich. You're rich, Miles corrected, pulling her onto his lap. As your spiritual advisor, I'm simply helping you process your grief. When do I get my cut? Miles asked, nuzzling Jenna's neck. The usual arrangement is 50%. Once everything clears, we'll transfer your share through the seminar payments, just like we planned, Jenna assured him. Miles refilled their glasses. You were brilliant with that break line, by the way. Where'd you learn to cut them so precisely? YouTube can teach you anything, Jenna laughed, clinking her glass against his. Though I almost got caught. Had to hide under the truck when the neighbor's kid came into the garage looking for his basketball. Worth the risk, Miles said, kissing her. Though I still think my sleeping pill plan was cleaner. Too many variables, Jenna replied, straddling his lap. The accident needed to look legitimate. No toxicology report to worry about when the body's burnt beyond recognition. To Logan, Miles raised his glass in mock salute. The sucker who never saw it coming. Later that night, after Miles had left, Jenna made another call, this one not to her lover, but to someone identified in her phone only as Chicago. Thor's collar camera captured her speaking in a hushed, authoritative tone vastly different from the girlish voice she used with Miles. Phase 1 complete, she said crisply. Insurance payout approved. Revere still thinks it's a 50-50 split. No, he has no idea about our arrangement. Once I have the money, we proceed as discussed. 3 months and we'll be clear. Yes, I'll handle Revere when the time comes. She ended the call, a calculating smile playing at her lips, one that suggested Miles Revere wasn't the mastermind he believed himself to be, but another pawn in Jenna's more elaborate game. The following morning, Jenna visited First National Bank to discuss the incoming insurance proceeds. The bank manager, briefed by federal investigators, treated her with appropriate solemnity while secretly recording every word. $2 million is a substantial sum, Mrs. Braxton, he said. Have you considered how you'll manage these funds? I'm thinking of investing in personal development seminars, helping others overcome trauma like mine. Dr. Revere's program has been my lifeline through this nightmare, Jenna replied, eyes downcast in practiced grief. We can set up transfers to Dr. Revere's business accounts if that would be helpful, the manager nodded sympathetically. That would be perfect, Jenna said, brightening. As she left the bank, Jenna didn't notice the nondescript van parked across the street, where Logan and Natalie reviewed the recorded conversation in real time. Perfect, Natalie said. The bank recordings give us financial fraud evidence. Combined with the brake tampering confession from last night, we're building an ironclad case. What about this Chicago person? Logan asked. Sounds like Jenna's playing Miles, too. Natalie nodded. I've got my associate tracing those calls. Might be an additional conspirator we don't know about yet. The following evening, Miles arrived at Jenna's house. Thor's collar camera captured their conversation as they sat at the dining room table, reviewing offshore account information. Once the money hits your account, we immediately wire half to this shell corporation in Panama, Miles explained, pointing at the screen. From there, it gets distributed through these 3 entities before landing in our private accounts in the Caymans. Is all this really necessary? Jenna asked, frowning. Can't I just write you a check for your consulting services? Miles laughed condescendingly. Darling, that's how people get caught. Large transfers to a man you barely knew before your husband's passing? Red flags everywhere. This way, the money disappears into legitimate-looking business transactions. You think of everything, Jenna purred, kissing him. That's why we're perfect together. Once everything settles, Miles continued, we'll need to stay apart publicly for at least 6 months. You should be seen dating other men. Nothing serious, just enough to establish that we weren't involved before the accident. 6 months is so long, Jenna pouted. Can't we meet secretly? Too risky, Miles insisted. Insurance investigators watch for exactly that kind of slip-up. But after 6 months, you can start attending my exclusive retreats, and our relationship can develop naturally from there. From his surveillance position across the street, Logan watched their planning session with growing disgust. I've seen enough, he told Natalie. Natalie nodded grimly. The bank confirms the insurance payout will hit Jenna's account tomorrow morning. Once they make their first transfer attempt, we spring the trap. The next day dawned bright and clear. At exactly 9:07 a.m., Jenna received notification that the insurance payment had been deposited into her account. Within minutes, she was on the phone with Miles. It's in, she said excitedly. $2 million. I'm initiating the transfers now. Perfect, Miles replied. I'll meet you for lunch to celebrate. 1 o'clock at Riverside? I'll be there, Jenna promised, wearing something special. After ending the call, Jenna opened her laptop and began making a series of transfers, not to the Panama corporation Miles had established, but to an account labeled CR Property Acquisition. She moved quickly, transferring the entire $2 million in 3 separate transactions. When completed, she made another call, again to the contact listed only as Chicago. Money transferred as planned, she said briskly. Revere knows nothing. Yes, meeting him for lunch to maintain the illusion. The Costa Rica property will be secured by end of day. No, I've left nothing traceable. I'll handle Revere permanently after lunch. In her purse, beside her carefully arranged makeup and wallet, sat a small bottle of clear liquid and a pair of latex gloves. From Natalie's office, Logan and the assembled team of investigators watched the unfolding betrayal with stunned silence. She's playing everyone, Logan said quietly. Revere thinks they're partners, but she's setting him up too. Natalie nodded. She's planning to eliminate him today. We need to move now. As Jenna left the house for her lunch meeting, a team of FBI agents, brought in by Natalie due to the interstate nature of the crimes, moved into position. Meanwhile, Logan and Sheriff Harlan headed to the Riverside restaurant, where Miles Revere was already seated at a corner table, champagne chilling beside him. The Riverside restaurant occupied prime real estate along the Ohio River, its glass walls offering panoramic views of the water. Miles Revere sat at his favorite table, checking his watch impatiently. Jenna was 15 minutes late, unusual for her, especially on such an important day. His phone buzzed with a text message. "Running late, start without me. Order the usual." Miles smiled, signaling the waiter for his regular whiskey sour. Everything was proceeding according to plan. By this time tomorrow, his share of Logan Braxton's insurance payout would be safely nestled in offshore accounts, and in 6 months he'd have both the money and the woman. It was a scheme he'd executed successfully twice before, though never with quite this much money at stake. Find a desperate or greedy wife, seduce her with promises of wealth and passion, eliminate the husband, split the insurance proceeds. Simple, profitable, and, with proper precautions, virtually risk-free. His drink arrived just as federal agents entered the restaurant's main entrance. Miles didn't notice them immediately. "Dr. Miles Revere?" the female agent asked, though it wasn't really a question. "Yes," Miles replied, professional smile firmly in place. "How can I help you?" "You're under arrest for conspiracy to commit homicide, wire fraud, and insurance fraud," the agent stated flatly. "Please stand slowly and place your hands behind your back." Miles laughed nervously, looking around. "There must be some mistake. I'm a motivational speaker, not a criminal." "No mistake, Dr. Revere," came a voice from behind him. A voice that should have been impossible, though I'm not feeling very motivated right now. Miles turned slowly, color draining from his face as Logan Braxton stepped into view, very much alive and flanked by Sheriff Harlan. "You're," Miles choked on the words, "you're alive." "Reports of my end were greatly exaggerated," Logan replied coldly. As the agents handcuffed a stunned Miles Revere, Logan leaned in close. "Jenna won't be joining you for lunch. She had other plans anyway, plans that didn't include you living through dessert." Miles's confusion was evident. "What are you talking about?" "She played you, Doc," Logan said. "Just like you played all those other women. Difference is, Jenna was planning to keep all the money and eliminate the middleman. Permanently." As the agents led Miles away, reading him his rights, Logan felt no satisfaction, only a hollow emptiness where his marriage and trust had once resided. Across town, Jenna Braxton pulled into the parking lot of Eagle Pass First National Bank, carefully checking her makeup in the rearview mirror. The small bottle of poison was secure in her purse, ready for Miles's whiskey sour at lunch. She'd let Miles think they were partners until a last moment, then eliminate the final loose end in her plan. The Costa Rica property, purchased through an untraceable shell corporation, awaited her. New identity documents were secured. By tomorrow, Jenna Braxton would cease to exist, replaced by Elena Vasquez, wealthy widow and property developer. As she exited her car, a black SUV pulled up beside her, and a woman in a crisp suit emerged. Mrs. Braxton?" the woman asked, displaying a federal badge. "Special Agent Rebecca Morris, FBI. We need to speak with you regarding fraudulent insurance claims filed in your name." Jenna's practiced composure cracked only slightly. "There must be some mistake. My husband died in a terrible accident. The claims are legitimate." "Are they?" came a familiar voice from behind her. Jenna froze, then turned slowly, disbelief etched across her face as Logan stepped into view. For several seconds, she simply stared, mouth working soundlessly. "You're alive! How?" she finally managed. "Disappointed," Logan asked quietly. "Sorry to ruin your plans." Jenna's shock quickly transformed into calculation, tears filling her eyes as she switched tactics. "Logan, oh my God, it's a miracle!" She moved to embrace him, but agents blocked her path. "I don't understand." "Cut the act, Jenna," Logan said wearily. "We have everything. The brake tampering in Colorado, the sleeping pills in my coffee, the insurance fraud, your plans for Miles." Even your mysterious friend in Chicago. Jenna's expression hardened, the facade of grief and surprise vanishing entirely. You can't prove any of that. Logan held up his phone, playing her own voice. Those pills you gave me? I've been putting them in his coffee every morning before a long haul. Eventually, he'll fall asleep at the wheel. Thor's been quite the little detective, Logan said, gesturing to the dog sitting quietly in the SUV's back seat, collar camera still in place. Man's best friend. As the agents handcuffed Jenna, reading her Miranda rights, she fixed Logan with a venomous glare. You think you've won? This isn't over. I have resources you know nothing about. Like your Chicago contact, Logan asked. Robert Altman, 3-time convicted felon and real estate fraudster. He was picked up an hour ago with all the documentation for your Costa Rica escape plan. For the first time, genuine fear flashed across Jenna's face. As the agents led her toward their vehicle, she cast one final look at Logan, a mixture of hatred and something like respect. The arrests of Jenna Braxton, Miles Revere, and Robert Altman made headlines across the Midwest, a sensational story of an elimination for insurance, betrayal, and the husband who faked his own end to expose the conspiracy. Logan watched the coverage from Natalie's office, Thor lying faithfully at his feet. The dog's collar camera, key evidence in building the case, had been entered into evidence, along with hours of surveillance footage and financial records. The prosecutor is offering Revere a deal, Natalie informed him, hanging up her phone. 15 years if he testifies against Jenna regarding the brake tampering. Apparently, he's claiming he never intended for you the end. Just wanted to scare you into a divorce so Jenna would get half your assets legally. And Jenna? Logan asked. Not talking, not to prosecutors, not to her court-appointed attorney. But with the evidence we've gathered, she's looking at 25 to life. The attempt to our life alone carries 15 years. Logan nodded. What about the money? She transferred the full $2 million before we arrested her. Already frozen, Natalie assured him. The bank cooperated fully. Federal agents have secured court orders to reverse all transfers. It'll take time, but you'll get everything back. Keep it, Logan said suddenly. The insurance money, I mean. Donate it to that domestic violence shelter you volunteer at. I don't want a penny that's connected to this mess. Natalie studied him thoughtfully. That's generous, Logan. But what will you do now? Logan gazed out the window at his truck parked outside. The real one, not the burned decoy from his staged passing. Get back on the road. It's what I know. It's where I belong. You could stay in Eagle Pass, Natalie suggested. People respect you even more after all this. The diner's already named a breakfast special after you. The Braxton comeback. Logan chuckled despite himself. Tempting, but no. Too many ghosts here now. As if understanding, Thor whined softly and pressed against Logan's leg. At least you've still got one loyal companion, Natalie observed. Yeah, Logan agreed, scratching behind Thor's ears. He's coming with me. Dog like this belongs on the open road. 6 months later, the Eagle Pass courthouse buzzed with tension as the trial of Jenna Braxton versus the state of Indiana began. National media crowded the historic building. Logan sat in the back row of the courtroom, almost unrecognizable with his beard neatly trimmed and hair cut short again. Beside him sat Natalie Burns, now officially part of the prosecution team. You ready for this? She whispered as the bailiff called for all to rise. Logan nodded grimly. Been ready for 6 months? The Honorable Judge Martha Wilkins entered, a stern woman with 30 years on the bench and a reputation for running an efficient courtroom. After preliminary matters, the prosecutor, District Attorney James Hargrove, approached for his opening statement. Ladies and gentlemen of the jury, Hargrove began, his deep voice resonating through the packed courtroom. This case is about betrayal in its most fundamental form. Betrayal of marriage vows, betrayal of trust, and most significantly, betrayal of the basic human covenant not to take another life for financial gain. He paced before the jury box, making eye contact with each member. The evidence will show that the defendant, Jenna Braxton, meticulously planned the elimination of her husband Logan for insurance money. She tampered with his truck's brake lines. She poisoned his coffee with sleeping pills. And when these attempts failed, she conspired with her lover to stage a fatal accident. From her seat at the defense table, Jenna Braxton appeared the picture of wronged innocence. Dressed conservatively in a navy suit, blonde hair pulled back in a modest ponytail, expression a careful mixture of confusion and hurt. What makes this case extraordinary, Hargrove continued, is that Logan Braxton survived these attempts on his life. And rather than confront his wife immediately, he made the courageous decision to document her ongoing conspiracy, gathering irrefutable evidence that will leave no doubt as to her guilt. The defense attorney, Cameron Walsh, a slick, expensively dressed man, smirked visibly during Hargrove's presentation. When his turn came, Walsh approached the jury with practiced confidence. The prosecution has painted a dramatic picture, he acknowledged. A story worthy of Hollywood, attempt plots, hidden cameras, fake ends. But, ladies and gentlemen, this is not a movie. This is a courtroom where evidence matters, not sensational narratives. Walsh gestured toward Jenna, who lowered her eyes demurely. My client is a devoted wife who has been victimized twice, first by her husband's elaborate deception and now by this malicious prosecution. The evidence will show that Logan Braxton, facing financial difficulties, staged this entire scenario to frame his wife after his trucking business began failing. Logan stiffened at the blatant lie, but Natalie placed a restraining hand on his arm, whispering, "Let him dig his own hole." Furthermore, Walsh continued, the state's evidence was obtained through questionable means, surveillance without consent, recordings made in privacy-expected settings, and coerced testimony from an admitted conman, Miles Revere, who will say anything to reduce his own sentence. As opening statements concluded, Logan leaned toward Natalie. That's the best they've got. It's their only play, she replied quietly. Create reasonable doubt by painting you as the manipulator. But don't worry, the evidence doesn't lie. The prosecution's case unfolded methodically over the next 7 days. Rick Braxton testified about discovering the cut brake lines, providing photographic evidence and mechanical analysis proving deliberate tampering. The insurance investigators detailed the policies and claims submitted after Logan's end. Bank officials testified about Jenna's hasty transfers of the insurance proceeds. On the 4th day, Miles Revere took the stand as part of his plea agreement. Mr. Revere, Hargrove began, please explain to the jury how you first became involved with the defendant, Jenna Braxton. Revere cleared his throat. She attended one of my seminars in Louisville last January. After the event, she approached me, claiming to be a wealthy photographer interested in investing in my business. And when did your relationship become romantic? Almost immediately, Revere admitted. She was very direct in her interests. When did Mrs. Braxton first mention her husband? After about 2 weeks. She described him as controlling, said he forced her to stay in a small town while he traveled, controlled all their money. Revere shifted uncomfortably. She made it seem like she was trapped in a terrible situation. And when did the discussion turn to permanently removing Mr. Braxton from the picture? Revere hesitated, glancing toward Jenna, who stared back coldly. It was gradual. First, she talked about divorce, but said Logan would never give her a fair settlement. Then she mentioned his life insurance policies. One night, she suggested that accidents happen to truckers all the time. And you took this as a suggestion to handle Mr. Braxton? Objection! Walsh shot to his feet. Calls for speculation. Sustained, Judge Wilkins ruled. Rephrase, Mr. Hargrove. What specifically did Mrs. Braxton ask you to do regarding her husband? Revere swallowed hard. She asked if I knew anyone who could fix her husband's truck before a long haul, said she'd make it worth their while. When I hesitated, she said she could do it herself but needed advice on how to make it look like mechanical failure rather than tampering. And did you provide such advice? Yes, Revere looked down. I told her about hydraulic cutters that would make clean cuts and brake lines, make it look like metal fatigue rather than sabotage. What was Mrs. Braxton's reaction when she learned that her husband had survived the brake failure in Colorado? She was furious. Said he always had the devil's own luck and that we needed a more foolproof plan. That's when she started researching sleeping medications that wouldn't appear in routine toxicology. Walsh's cross-examination was aggressive, painting Revere as the mastermind who manipulated a naive Jenna into the scheme. Revere held firm with most of his testimony, but appeared shaken by the time he stepped down. On day 5, the prosecution played their strongest card, the surveillance recordings. The courtroom fell silent as Thor's collar camera footage showed Jenna and Miles explicitly discussing Logan's end, the insurance money, and their future plans. A love story born from tragedy, Revere joked on screen. You're terrible, Jenna giggled. Additional recordings revealed Jenna's conversations with Chicago, Robert Altman, planning to double-cross Miles after securing the insurance money. During a recess, Walsh approached the prosecution table with a plea offer. Involuntary manslaughter, 5 years, he proposed quietly. My client is prepared to admit to the conspiracy but maintains she never intended actual elimination. Hargrove looked to Logan, who shook his head firmly. No deal, Hargrove replied. We're confident in our case. On day 6, the moment the courtroom had been anticipating finally arrived. The prosecution called Logan Braxton to the stand. A murmur ran through the gallery as Logan walked forward and was sworn in. Mr. Braxton, Hargrove began, please tell the court about your marriage to the defendant. Logan's deep voice remained steady as he recounted meeting Jenna during a delivery to her hometown in Missouri, their whirlwind courtship, and marriage 3 months later. He described buying their house in Eagle Pass, supporting her photography ambitions, spending weeks on the road to build their financial security. When did you first suspect something was wrong in your relationship? Logan detailed the small inconsistencies, unexplained withdrawals, strange receipts, Jenna's growing distance. Then came the Colorado brake failure and Rick's discovery of tampering. Why didn't you confront your wife immediately with your suspicions? At first, I couldn't believe she'd actually try to handle me, Logan said simply. We'd built a life together. I needed to understand why. So you decided to gather evidence rather than confront her directly? Yes. If I confronted her too soon with too little proof, she could deny everything. When Walsh's turn for cross-examination came, he approached Logan with thinly veiled hostility. Mr. Braxton, your entire case rests on recordings that you made secretly, without your wife's knowledge or consent, correct? The recordings were legal, Logan replied calmly. Single-party consent is the law in Indiana. That's not what I asked, Walsh pressed. You spied on your wife for weeks, hiding cameras in your home without her knowledge. Isn't that correct? I documented attempts against me, Logan countered steadily. Would you prefer I'd waited until she succeeded? Walsh changed tactics. Your trucking business was facing financial difficulties, wasn't it? Insurance companies investigating your Colorado accident found evidence you were behind on payments for your rig. Objection, Hargrove called. Relevance and facts, not in evidence. Goes to motive, Your Honor, Walsh argued. The defense contends Mr. Braxton created this elaborate frame-up for insurance money himself. I'll allow it, Judge Wilkins ruled. The witness will answer. Logan shook his head. My business was financially sound. I owned my truck outright. The only loan I had was temporarily delayed because I was switching banks when a payment was due. It was resolved within days. Walsh produced bank statements. Yet you withdrew over $20,000 in cash in the months before the alleged attempts. Money that hasn't been accounted for. That money went towards surveillance equipment and private investigation services, Logan explained. Natalie Burns has complete records of all expenditures. For 2 hours, Walsh hammered at Logan's testimony, trying to find inconsistencies or suggest alternative narratives. Logan remained composed, answering directly and honestly. Finally, Walsh tried his last angle. Mr. Braxton, isn't it true that you and Natalie Burns have been romantically involved since your separation from Mrs. Braxton? Objection, Hargrove shouted. Inflammatory and irrelevant. Sustained, Judge Wilkins ruled sharply. Mr. Walsh, limit your questions to relevant matters. No further questions, Walsh conceded, returning to the defense table where Jenna sat fuming. As Logan stepped down from the witness stand, his eyes briefly met Jenna's. Her expression had transformed from practiced innocence to cold fury. The prosecution rested their case that afternoon. The following morning, in a surprising move, Jenna Braxton fired her attorney and announced she would represent herself for the remainder of the trial. Your Honor, she addressed Judge Wilkins with practiced humility, I feel, Mr. Walsh doesn't truly understand my situation. As a woman fighting for her life against these false accusations, I believe I can best represent my own interests. Judge Wilkins regarded her skeptically. Mrs. Braxton, representing yourself is rarely advisable, especially in a case of this complexity. Are you certain you wish to proceed pro se? I am, Your Honor, Jenna replied confidently. I have nothing to hide and believe the jury should hear directly from me. The judge reluctantly granted the request, though she appointed Walsh as standby counsel. When court resumed after lunch, Jenna called her first witness, herself. Taking the stand in a modest cream-colored dress, hair styled simply, Jenna presented herself as the sufferer of circumstances beyond her control. Her performance was masterful, voice breaking at precisely the right moments, eyes glistening with unshed tears. "I loved my husband," she testified. "Everything I did was because I believed in our future together. Yes, I attended Miles Revere's seminars. Logan knew about them. I was trying to build a photography business so I could contribute to our household." She claimed Miles had manipulated her, using her vulnerabilities to draw her into an inappropriate relationship. "He told me Logan was hiding money, cheating on me during his long hauls. I was confused, lonely. Miles made me believe terrible things about my own husband." Regarding the surveillance recordings, Jenna insisted they were taken out of context or doctored. "Logan is technically skilled. He could easily edit recordings." Her most effective moments came when addressing the jury directly. "I ask you to imagine being married to someone who secretly records you, spies on you, and then stages their own passing to frame you. What kind of person does that?" From the gallery, Logan watched Jenna's performance with grim recognition. Several jurors appeared visibly moved by her testimony. When Hargrove's turn for cross-examination came, he approached carefully, aware of the sympathy Jenna had generated. "Mrs. Braxton, you claim the recordings were taken out of context. Let's listen to this segment again." He played the clip where Jenna explicitly discussed putting sleeping pills in Logan's coffee. "How exactly should we contextualize your statement? Those pills you gave me. I've been putting them in his coffee every morning before a long haul. Eventually, he'll fall asleep at the wheel." Jenna's eyes hardened momentarily before she recalibrated. "I never actually put pills in his coffee. Miles and I were role-playing, discussing a fictional scenario. It was a game we played, pretending to be like characters from movies or books." "A game," Hargrove repeated skeptically. "And the brake lines in Colorado? Was that also a game?" "I had nothing to do with that," Jenna insisted. "If it happened at all, it was probably Miles acting alone to frame me later. And the $2 million in insurance money you attempted to transfer immediately after learning of your husband's end? Was that a game too?" "I was in shock, not thinking clearly," Jenna claimed. "Miles guided those actions, told me it was necessary for estate management." For 3 hours, Hargrove methodically dismantled Jenna's alternate narrative, highlighting contradictions between her testimony and the objective evidence. Though she remained composed, small cracks appeared in her performance, flashes of anger, moments of calculation visible beneath the wounded innocence. By the time cross-examination concluded, much of the sympathy she generated had evaporated, replaced by uncertainty among the jurors. In her closing argument, Jenna appealed directly to the jury's emotions, portraying herself as a misunderstood wife caught between manipulative men. Her performance was compelling enough that several jurors appeared moved. But when then Hargrove delivered the prosecution's closing argument, "You've heard dramatic appeals to emotion and elaborate alternative explanations," he concluded. "But the simplest explanation is Jenna Braxton methodically attempted to end her husband's life. The state asks you to deliver justice, not just for Logan Braxton, but for every marriage vow that means something, for every trust that deserves protection, and for the basic principle that human life cannot be traded for financial gain." Courtroom fell silent. The judge provided jury instructions. No one expected a quick verdict in such a complex case. Yet after only 4 hours, the bailiff announced the jury had reached their decision. Logan sat rigid in his seat as the jurors filed back in. Natalie reached for his hand, squeezing it supportively. Across the aisle, Jenna stood alone at the defense table, chin lifted defiantly. "Members of the jury, have you reached a verdict?" Judge Wilkins asked. The foreman, a retired schoolteacher with silver-rimmed glasses, rose. "We have, Your Honor." The courtroom collectively held its breath as the judge reviewed the verdict form, her expression revealing nothing. "The defendant will rise," she directed. Jenna stood, smoothing her skirt with trembling hands. "On the charge of conspiracy to commit a fatal act with intent, what is your verdict?" "We find the defendant guilty, Your Honor." A soft gasp rippled through the gallery. "On the count of attempt in the first degree, how do you find?" "Guilty, Your Honor." "On the count of insurance fraud, how do you find?" "Guilty, Your Honor." With each pronouncement, Jenna's carefully constructed facade cracked further. Judge Wilkins thanked the jury for their service and scheduled sentencing for the following week. 1 week later, the courtroom was again packed, as Judge Wilkins prepared to deliver her sentence. Mrs. Braxton, the evidence presented in this case reveals a level of calculation and disregard for human life that this court finds deeply disturbing. Jenna remained stone-faced as the judge continued. On all counts of the indictment, you are sentenced to 25 years of imprisonment with possibility of parole after serving 18 years. The gavel struck with finality. As Jenna was led away in handcuffs, she kept her head high, never looking back at the life she'd destroyed. Later that same day, Miles Revere received his own sentence as part of his plea agreement. 5 years plus immediate deportation to Canada upon release, never to return to U.S. soil. 3 weeks after the sentencing, Logan pulled his new rig into the Waypoint truck stop outside Laramie. The neon sign buzzed above the diner, same as always. He parked in the far corner, the dog Thorn hopping down behind him. Inside, the diner buzzed with quiet conversation and clinking cutlery. Logan slid into a booth by the window. Thorn curled up at his boots without a sound. A waitress poured him coffee without asking. "Just passing through?" "Always," he said. "Back east tomorrow." She nodded and moved on. Logan watched the highway lights blink through the glass and scratched Thorn behind the ear. That was enough for now.